Welcome to WTF, the only askreddit channel that will blow your mind. Like and subscribe right now to support Pepe's career as an independent musician. Sheltered kids, what happened / surprised you when you went out to the real world? My first week in college, I was hanging with some new friends in someone's dorm room, and I realized I didn't have a curfew. I didn't have someone waiting by the clock for me to get home. I stayed out all night and then called my grandma the next day to tell her about it. I was so excited. I think that was my first realization that I really was, for all practical purposes, on my own at last. I had a hard time picking up on sarcasm. I'd try my best to play it cool while being deeply confused. Sex was so demonized in the house I grew up in. I had no context for what was actually appropriate sexually. I struggled to discern between sexual jokes, flirting and harassment all blended together into one confusing mess. It was not a fun learning curve. That going out and doing things you enjoy isn't an end of the world horrible thing to do. I left the house maybe 5 to 10 times total throughout my time in high school that I spent with my mom. Grades 9 to 11, each time I was allowed out it was with strict rules. You can leave and stay the night at your friend's house, but we will pick you up no later than 0700 the next morning. You can stay late at school to finish your project, but if you are at home any later than 16:30, then you are grounded until we decide you're not. Meaning I could miss the first city bus, but had to catch the next one 15 minutes later or else I would be considered late home, so not actually allowed to stay late to finish. Parents actually argue in front of their kids. My parents never did. And honestly just recently figured out that they weren't absolutely perfect and they had their fair share of arguments. But I never saw any of them. It disgusts me when two parents scream and yell at each other in front of their kids. Just a very shitty example. Hopefully you don't mind if I get a little ass backwards here. I wasn't sheltered as a kid. Parents didn't have me watching horror movies in kindergarten, but I wasn't really sheltered either, except, in a sense, from sheltered kids. In middle school, I want to say 7th grade, a boy transferred from a private school. He was your complete stereotypical sheltered kid. Private school, wealthy parents, devout Christian, you know the type. This was middle school, so naturally, a boy makes a dick joke. What's a dick? Alright. Bit surprising. But maybe his parents never swear. It's not the weirdest thing I've ever heard, you know? But nothing could prepare me for what comes next. We explained to him that dick is slang for penis, but that it's a bad word, so he shouldn't say it all the time. Ready for this? What's a penis? We waited for him to start laughing. Or a grin. Or anything. Any indication that he was joking. Nothing. This boy was so sheltered that at the age of 12 he had no clue what a penis was. A boy did not know what a penis was. Still my favorite tale of sheltered kids that I've ever heard, and definitely the most shocking question I've ever been asked. That racism was alive and well and not just a thing in movies / TV. The area I grew up in had a very low minority population and those that did live there were orders of magnitude more wealthy / successful than my family, so everyone talked of / treated them well. In hindsight they were probably considered one of the good ones. That most people don't hit people they care about. That was the environment that I grew up in. Fighting and screaming weekly. Most of the time I was lucky and managed to stay out of it. If I was unlucky there was chance of getting a good smack across the face. If it was a mild day, a mug of hot coffee or china bowl of soup hurled with all the strength a fit human being could muster. But that was how we showed love, I guess. First girl I cared about I hit across the face. Wasn't very hard, but she fell back as if I had shoved her. Was first time I ever realized that something was wrong. The response I had always seen was always either stone-faced stoicism, smoldering anger, or unbridled fury followed by retaliation. Instead what I saw was fear. Couldn't understand why for the longest time, and by the time I did it was far too late to learn any other way. She forgave me a while ago I think, but that's more for her than me. Now I think it's best that I keep everyone at distance, where I cannot harm them. What I am cannot be changed at this point. You cannot fix something so broken that there is no image of what it might have looked like otherwise. But at least no one else is going to suffer on my account. How mean the general public is. I grew up in small Catholic schools and went to a public university, but was part of the Catholic group on campus, so my social circle consisted of nice people who were always volunteering to help others in one form or another. The golden rule of treating others the way you would like to be treated, i.e. kindly, is something I thought everyone learned. Then I joined the workforce and learned quickly that so many people in this world are just cruel for the fun of it, or to flex their sense of superiority, or to try to get free shit. I'm still super idealistic from my sheltered upbringing and have a really tough time trying to balance my instinct to be willing to help people with my underdeveloped self-preservation skills. It's led me to be taken advantage of professionally, and it sucks. I started to get away from my family's influence near the end of high school. One day, someone made a comment about how being gay is wrong. I, a girl from a very conservative Christian, Baptist family, suddenly realized I didn't know why it was wrong. So I asked the kid why, and he just looked at me, stunned, and was like, "I don't know. That's what my dad says." Fast forward 4 years, I realize I'm bi, and he comes out as gay. Both of us broke our family tradition of hatred because I got curious and asked why. The first violent video game I saw, I had never seen gore in real life or even in movies before. I was fresh out of a private Christian school and finally got invited to my first public school friend's house. She and some other guy friends started playing a zombie shooter game. Every time they killed one of the zombies, I saw blood and brains splatter. I wanted so badly to fit in, but my brain couldn't process something so terrible as entertainment. I felt my stomach turn and felt so physically ill I needed to leave the room. My friend left with me and was extremely understanding. About a decade later, we are still best friends and we love playing shooters together. Close bracket. My wife was incredibly sheltered as a kid. Her and all of her siblings, really. Not long after we started dating, my wife's mom took me aside and explained that they'd discussed the previous night her feelings towards me. Turns out her mom had to explain to her that she was sexually attracted to me. She was 20. We're married now, and none of that's a mystery anymore, thankfully. But it was quite the bumpy road for a little while. When you've been told all your life that you're smart and praised for being smart whenever you do well at something, it becomes very hard to see yourself anything but smart. That's all you become to think of yourself. I'm smart and being smart is what I do. Then later in life, when it's time to actually learn, you're too afraid to learn because learning requires making mistakes, but smart people don't make mistakes, so you're too afraid to learn new things because you'll look not smart, and being smart is you. It what defines you to yourself. How can I be smart if I'm making mistakes? So either you try to learn and makes mistakes which requires you to shatter your whole belief of you, or you'll be too scared to learn and end up keeping your idea of you being smart for smart and live happily and ignorantly until the next time you need to learn something, and you go through the entire cycle all over again, usually with the same result, because let's face it, no one wants to see their image of themselves to themselves gets shattered. I know this probably won't make any sense, but I'm just getting it off my chest. Won't even. I loved dinosaurs when I was little. My dad would take me on hikes where we'd hunt for dinosaur fossils. Anytime he saw an interesting looking rock or something that looked like a bone, he'd tell me to collect it. I ended up having 3 massive crates in my bedroom of ordinary rocks I thought were precious. When I finally realized they were just rocks, I was pretty pissed. My wife was homeschooled, very rarely got to meet new people, was very sheltered. Her biggest problem was that, even though she was homeschooled, her mother didn't exactly do very much schooling. So my wife struggles, still very much with math and history. I've had to teach her a lot about WWII, Vietnam, the Revolutionary War, the Great Depression, all manner of things. That said, she was always very naturally inquisitive, so although her mother tried to keep her sheltered, she had, and still has, quite a thirst for knowledge. When it comes to English, literature, science, you know, the things she was naturally interested in, she self-taught, and is every bit as keen on the subjects as I am. She still has quite a difficult time meeting new people, and doesn't like to go out in large groups. What has she learned the hard way? Dealing with people. Her job requires her to deal with new people on a daily basis, and even though she's been doing it, and doing it well for around 4 years, she still comes home very stressed from all the interaction. We've tried a lot, but we've come to the conclusion she's just not ever going to be a social butterfly, which I suppose is okay. Me on the other hand, I like to go out a lot with friends, which oddly enough works out for us. She gets her alone time, I get my guys' nights, no fusses really. I was far from sheltered, but I was pretty naive growing up in a how. For example, my family used to listen to the soundtrack to the musical Chicago on a regular basis, usually in the car or while cleaning. There is one line in the Cell Block Tango where a woman describes killing her husband after he accused her of screwing the milkman. Fast forward to mid-high school, when I rented the movie. It came as a rather sudden realization that the man was not, in fact, angry at his wife because he thought she was cheating the milkman out of money. You need to work hard to achieve anything in life. I grew up essentially asking and getting anything I want with ease. I'm also gifted as a child with very strong math skills. I didn't try very hard at all and managed to get top grades in high school. I grew up to have a very laissez-faire attitude towards everything in life. But university hit really hard on my educational practices and my attitude. I never really learned how to study well and work hard to be successful, and now bordering failing several classes and failing my degree. I'm gradually learning how to study, but depression and stress from my supervisor really destroyed me mentally. I'm changing, but at a pace a bit slower than my friends and my peers, and I really don't know how to deal with that, so I avoid social contact as much as possible and end up sheltered in my room, and avoid doing anything sociable. I went to a progressive grade school in California back in the 1970s. We had open classrooms, full audio/visual suites in the library, gifted student programs, the whole 9 yards of 70s idealism in one school. My first grade teacher was an international chess champion who started the year by telling us all about MLK and how racism wouldn't be tolerated amongst our fairly mixed student body. Then my family moved to Oregon. We did ROTC-style military drills for physical education. The teachers were white rednecks. The students were white rednecks. To not be white or a redneck was unthinkable. Thinking about not being a redneck was punishable with physical violence or bullying. Bullying was regarded as a character building life experience and or gifted student program/punishment. What I learned the hard way, most public schools in those days were jails for alcoholic 5th graders. I was told/coached that I could really trust no one but my parents/family. Reason? Financially, those that have more than you want to keep you down. Those that have less want what you have. I was discouraged from having friends because they were beneath me or that they looked down on me and were, as a result, not real friends. Only when I moved out at 18 did I realize that there was a possibility of compatibility on a romantic and friendship level with those that were different in social standing. Still exists to this day. Parents still think my wife and her family are part of some secret cabal to exploit our family's wealth, which is not that great, BTW, and which I have no benefit from anyway as it's their $sign. But to answer the question, I had a hard time creating friendships as a young adult as a result of this baggage. At first, I felt like I was disrespecting and being disobedient to what they taught me. It took longer than I'd like to admit to realize they were crazy. I had to make a doctor's appointment today, and I felt anxious. All the little silly things give me the heebie-jeebies. Calling the wrecker when my car broke in the middle of the highway, entering discussions at college, and standing my ground at work. But I'm learning. My brother is still young, 15, and I'm taking him away from the claws of my protective father and showing him the mysterious outside world. I taught him how to ride the bus a couple weeks ago. Thanks for tuning in for this WTF Red episode. Don't forget to like and subscribe to the one and only askreddit channel that will blow your mind every time.